this is Julie Manoogian from LexMedia, and today we are going to be talking to the new Executive Director of the Lexington Chamber of Commerce. Her name is Erin Sandler-Rathe. So Erin, welcome to Lexington.
Thank you.
It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Before you got here, tell us a little bit about your background and where you were recently working.
So I have kind of an interesting patchwork of a background. Right after college, I got into a bunch of administrative work at universities mostly, but also startups in Silicon Valley. And eventually I decided to go back to graduate school in English literature, which, has nothing to do with anything, just was something I wanted to study. And my husband at the time encouraged me to do that. So I got my master's in English literature and then was working on my PhD at Tufts for about 6 years. And after, a number of setbacks and, interruptions, I decided not to keep going with the PhD. I was in the middle of writing my dissertation. And I talked to my husband about it, and he said, "Why don't you start a store? You've always talked about starting a store." Yes, everybody has dreams like that, sure. But, what would I even do? I don't even know. And he said, "Well, take some time and think about it and think about what you want to do." And so I gave it a few months and came up with the idea for a store that carried all American-made and fair trade products. So gifts, soap, jewelry, paper goods, toys, clothing, all different things. And I worked on opening it up. And in 2015, I opened this store called Quinston's at 3rd Ave in Burlington. I was there for about 2.5 years and then moved over to the Market Street complex in Linfield. And we were there for about a year. And, retail's very hard. I think that's one of the things that makes me very empathetic in this job is that I absolutely understand what small businesses are going through right now. And every day, not just right now, but it's a struggle every day to keep your small business open. So anyway, at the end of 2018, I did close Quinston's. And I, again, was kind of casting about, thinking, what am I going to do next? And I started a consulting company called Daydreamers Consulting, because the thing that I loved most about my experience through Quinston's was meeting and championing all these very, very small companies that I was working with, the soap companies and jewelry and woodwork and so forth. These are all people who, very much like me with starting the store, had this little dream and decided to go for it. And now they're trying to make a living at it. And those kinds of businesses really need a lot of help. People go into businesses like that because they're great at woodworking, but they might not be great at social media or getting their brand out there, distribution channels, getting customers through the door, all of those kinds of things. And having done that for 4 years in the store, I wanted to continue doing that. So the consulting company was a way for me to work still with very small companies and nonprofits. Actually, I was surprised. Several of my clients have been nonprofits who want the same kind of help on a small budget.
And then from there, what happened? Are you still doing that? Are you still having that consulting company?
I do still have it. Yep, I do still have it. I didn't want to let my clients down, the ones that I have. It's not a huge company, but I definitely don't want to abandon the people that I have been working with.
Right.
But during the whole process, when as soon as I opened Quinston's, I joined both the Bedford and Burlington Chambers of Commerce because I'm a resident in Bedford.
Okay.
And the store was located in Burlington.
Okay.
And I see the value, I've always seen the value of a chamber of commerce to help small businesses and the business community overall develop economically and socially. And so I joined the board of the Bedford Chamber of Commerce almost immediately after Maureen Sullivan, who just recently retired from that position, is very, very good at getting people in to help with things like that. And I'm a person who can't say no when asked to do something to help out.
Shout out to Maureen. Love Maureen.
Absolutely. She was a great mentor to me because I worked with her for 5 years before she retired in my capacity as a board member. And I saw up close what she was doing. I saw, what the chamber was working on and what the chamber could be.
Right.
And how we could evolve into the 21st century. One of the projects I worked on there through Daydreamers Consulting, the Bedford Chamber was one of my clients, and I developed a new brand and a new website for them while I was on the board.
Wow.
So I enjoyed working with the Chamber of Commerce very much. I poured a lot of my energy into it. The last year and a half that I was there, I was the president of the board.
Excellent.
And when Maureen retired, and there's been so much, there's so much turmoil in the world, obviously.
Right.
And I know Lexington had some turnover at the same time that Bedford was facing turnover. And we went through a new hire search in Bedford. I understood that process. And when I heard that the Lexington Chamber had this opening, I thought, you know what, I'll go for it.
Well, it sounds like you have the perfect background for this new job as executive director at the chamber. I mean, you've just explained you were a retail business owner yourself. You have your consulting company where you help small businesses, and you've most recently been with the Bedford Chamber of Commerce for 5 years. So we're excited to have you here. Give us a little example of what does an executive director of a chamber do exactly? And how many members do you have here in Lexington?
We have about 250 members. We could be doing a lot better. There are a lot of you who haven't joined, but we'll get to. That's something I learned from Maureen.
Okay.
We have about 250 members, and in a given day, I could be doing anything that a member needs me to do. Right now, of course, with the crisis going on, it's a lot of information gathering. I sat and listened to the governor's press conference yesterday. I worked with, I'm on a lot of webinars for all of the funding opportunities through the SBA. The Secretary of Economic Development, Mike Keneally, who I know is a Lexington resident, he has a briefing every Friday. So it's a lot right now of sitting in these information sessions that business owners don't have time to do. And so right now, my role is really to get all of that information and then kind of repackage it so that it's useful to our members so that they can look at our website, our newsletters, our social media, and get that information quickly in a form that, is going to actually be actionable for them.
So tell us, how do you work and collaborate with the board of directors of the chamber?
We have a great board. We have a very involved board, and I'm very thankful for that. It helps my job when I know there are people who are willing to, reach out to somebody, make an introduction for me, pick something up at times. Our board chair, Carol DeLugie from Get in Shape for Women, she picked up a bunch of masks that the Chinese American Association was donating to the chamber. And Carol was right there to say, I can go pick that up if you don't have time today. And that was wonderful. Right. So we work really well together. We have executive committee meetings. We've actually been doing them frequently during the crisis, more frequently than normal, so that the executive committee and I can be on the same page and make sure we get all the information where it needs to be.
Sure.
And, we have monthly board meetings. We have one tomorrow. And it's a great relationship. It's very supportive.
Are there certain things that Lexington business owners are needing more than ever right now during the pandemic?
I think support and feeling connected. I mean, that's true for all of us in our homes as well. But businesses want to stay in contact with their customers. Through Quinstance, I developed a database of over 3,000 customers in 4 years. And you care about those people. Not everybody is a daily regular customer, but you have your customers that you miss. Whether you're a barista at a coffee shop and your regulars aren't coming in, or you're an ice cream shop, a shoe store, a craft store, whatever it is, you have people that you want to see and who want to see you. So connection is really difficult right now. And these Zoom calls and social media can only replace so much of it.
And after hearing Governor Baker's announcement, how does that affect our Lexington business owners? What are some of the key takeaways that you want to explain?
I think one piece of it that was disappointing for Lexington in particular, we have so many retail shops. Yes. And they're suffering. And all through this crisis, they have not been put at the top of, their concerns have not been put at the top of the list. So they have had really limited restrictions on them for how they can still do business. And that's not changing in phase one of the plan that the governor outlined yesterday. They still have to be restricted to curbside pickup and delivery. They can only have a certain number of employees in the store. They can fulfill remote orders, but you can't let shoppers back in. And that's what the whole community needs. People need to be able to get out of their homes and participate in the Lexington community again. Yes. So that, I think, that's, maybe one of the biggest challenges from the reopening plan. But the upside of the press conference yesterday was that we finally have some clarity about what is going to happen next. It may not have been what we wanted to hear, right? But we know what some of the steps are going to be now. So we know the mandatory cleaning and safety requirements that are going to be required in office buildings and retail establishments and restaurants and so forth. We now know which businesses are in which phase. So whether you like what phase you've been assigned to or not, you at least know when that's coming and how to prepare.
And in what phase are those retail businesses?
They're particularly in phase one. They are still limited and they can only do that curbside like I talked about. In phase two, they'll be allowed to do some limited in-store shopping. So they'll be able to allow a certain number of customers in at a time, depending on their square footage and their arrangements and so forth. They can let a few customers in at a time to browse and actually shop in store. And that will be a huge change. That's when people can, one of the greatest assets Lexington has is Mass Ave and all the businesses right up and down it. Right. And people need to be out in order for that to happen.
Our little downtown needs to come back to life. So taking a look at Hartwell Ave, for example, how are the challenges different for the larger companies in Lexington?
I think the larger companies have done an admirable job of adapting. They have discovered how many of their workers can work remotely and still be effective. Not everything can be done remotely. Obviously, there's a lot of research and lab time that needs to happen too. But I think, number one, they've been able to look at their workforce and kind of pivot into more remote opportunities. They have a different kind of challenge from the small businesses because they have to rearrange their physical space quite a bit in order to meet the requirements for opening. Office space will be allowed to open next week if they're meeting the guidelines, and that includes keeping work spaces 6 feet apart. And checking employee temperatures on their way in and things like that. So the larger companies, I think, have continued to do their business, but now with letting employees back into the building, that's going to be a huge challenge. I actually just last week went in and met T2 Biosystems. They had a certificate of origin they needed. And, that work is continuing. They don't have a ton of orders from overseas, but they're still receiving orders. And the work is still going on. The fulfillment is still going on. And we need to make sure that that can happen. If we can facilitate that kind of industry still working, we want to.
How about Lexington restaurants?
They are, I listened to the select board's meeting last night, and I know that they are taking a lot of consideration into how restaurants can start to come back. I know they're tossing around ideas for expanded outdoor seating, closing off traffic at times, changing parking spaces into little parklets and things like that. They're exploring a lot of options, because I will say, listening to the select board last night, it was very helpful, and it was very reassuring to me to hear that they really are considering the needs of the small businesses in Lexington.
So now, where can people find you in Lexington? Where is your new office going to be? Have you even been inside it yet?
No, I have not. We were in the visitor center, and then the visitor center is getting this beautiful renovation. So we're temporarily in some space right across from Town Hall.
So when are you moving into your new office?
We are working with the town to find out, the town doesn't have occupancy yet. It hasn't been turned over from the construction company yet. And so when it is, the town offices will be able to move into the visitor center, and we'll be able to move in as well. And we're really excited, because even though we haven't been in the building, we have heard from the town that it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, they've done a really nice job refurbishing.
And I understand you haven't even met your staff yet live in person.
No, that's true. I started this job right at, it was about April 15th, and we were already in lockdown. So everything has been virtual like this. And, in some ways, I think there are some positives to meeting people virtually, because I've been in a lot of meetings where, you get 15 people around the screen on your Zoom and whatnot. And at least, I get to meet those departments and those organizations and those businesses in a big group that I might not otherwise have been able to do. So in that setting, I'm able to meet people kind of in bulk and introduce myself to a bunch of people at a time and hear what they have to say and what their organization is about. But it's true. We have 2 wonderful staff members who work with me, and they're still working with me. They're working remotely, just like I am. And we have had some Zoom calls, but no, we have not met.
Why don't you give us your email or your phone number, and we can put it up on the screen so people can find you.
Absolutely. So I am director at lexingtonchamber.org, just like our website. And you can also call the office. I would love to hear from anyone. I've also started, actually, I'll put in a little plug. I've started something that I'm calling the Monday Morning Mingle. I'm planning to do a Facebook chat room every Monday morning at 9. And there's no agenda, there's no speakers. It's just an opportunity for people to stop by and connect with each other, say hi to me, ask questions, whatever might be on their mind, just catch up after the weekend, anything like that.
That's great. How do we sign up for the Monday Mingle?
The link is posted every Monday morning, or it will be posted every Monday morning on our Facebook page.
Perfect. Well, you've given us a lot of ways to reach you and to meet you, and everybody here is looking forward to having you in town. Thank you for your time, Erin.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate it, Julie.
Take care.